for some reason it's come up quite a bit in the last just like few days. So I'm just influence and stuff is just sort of interesting because I'm listening. Okay, so the beginning of this formulation came yesterday because there was the second part of an interview with Nick Fuentes that got released, and I was listening to it, and he name drops Aleister Crowley, which really should just go to show impact because, Aleister Crowley, here he is, even to this day, being the great beast, the boogeyman, actually, I would say Crowley is probably one of the biggest iconoclasts in history, so that makes sense, like, that Richard Kaczynski book on Crowley is an excellent read. Uh, per I don't know how to pronounce the title, to be honest. I don't care to try. But Richard Kaczynski, last name spelt the same as the Unabomber. But yeah, influence. It's interesting because I was also going through this old interview I did with Shane. I guess it's not old because it's from this year. It just feels like a million years ago, billions of years ago. And we were talking about the subject was for the commodification of the human experience because I felt initially I felt just Dana Plato would be a good encapsulation of that, but it turns out that the commodification goes quite deeper. Well, obviously, but it's kind of just like, and so we were talking about influence, and I'll just put it again right here, probably. Why not?
Yeah, sort of the whole goth thing
Okay. I'll tell
becoming
you.
like, oh, now it's like the whole idea of artists selling kits to help people.
Oh,
It's
I
like,
see. Well,
you're not, you're trying to get in something by paying into it.
the
Like,
original moment, right? The original moment of goth or emo or black metal is amongst 16 people. Like influence is small. Look at Christ and his table of people, his apostles. There was very few. They influenced all of this other shit. Black metal, there was only a few people sitting there, and they influenced all this stuff. Anton LaVey and the Church of Satan, there was only a handful of people there. So it starts with 2 or 3 or 10, 5 people, and it can have an influence for thousands of years. But what that influence does, like a Christianity, branches off into insanity and stuff. And not that Christianity isn't insanity, I think it is, but probably somewhere when it started, it was the intent was pure. There was something else going on there, and it's been bastardized. Now, when I was younger, metalheads were poor working class people. And goths, we couldn't fit in with goths because goths had money to pay for boots and different clothing, eyeliner. Even if that stuff was cheaper than it is today, it was still out of reach for us. And we didn't look like them. We couldn't look like them because they had fashion. They had they had stuff you had to buy. And metalheads were going there in a t-shirt and blue jeans, ripped up, different culture. And so and I know a lot of people would start with heavy metal and then they'd say they grew out of it and go into goth or whatever you might call emo today. The emo is very similar to what the goth movement was.
And then earlier today, I was talking with some other people online about Lords of Chaos and stuff because Varg doesn't like Lords of Chaos, and that's fine. He was there. He lived it. I'll trust him more than I'll trust Michael Moynihan. But with that also is, Michael Moynihan did do probably one of the, I don't know, at least in my opinion, looking through it, and, I have read Lords of Chaos. I saw the movie, which took quite a bit of artistic liberty, which was kind of cool. I actually like the movie Lords of Chaos. Um, I think it's a pretty interesting take on the whole matter because, frankly, Varg has not had a consistent story over the years. Not to shit on Varg, but, that's one of the things that I'll say about Varg with criticism of, because I think generally he's a really smart guy, but he doesn't really have a consistency on that, because he'll say it was self-defense, but there's also so many other factors in with that, I guess. But I will have to take him on his word with that one particular scenario, as he is the only living person to have witnessed that. So, which goes on to another thing, because I was influence, yeah, the Sex Pistols and punk. So there's this. Okay, the Ramones are the technical start of punk. They're the official technical start of punk. They started before the Sex Pistols, and I know Lydon, and as much as I like John Lydon, he I guess it's fine that he won't admit it. I think that's kind of funny, but the Ramones did start before the Sex Pistols, and for what it's worth, smart and as encapsulating of the ideal as John Lydon is, and as Public Image Limited can be seen as, it's a the Sex Pistols can be likened to a industry plant boy band, for as good as they are, that it was a, it was an attempt at self-insertion by Malcolm McLaren, because Malcolm McLaren was originally gonna do what John Lydon did in becoming Johnny Rotten, but I guess Malcolm didn't really fit it, and I guess it's not that they didn't do it on their own, and there wasn't that necessary component of adding John and Sid Vicious and replacing Glenn Matlock, but it was a industry plant boy band at a certain degree, which is fine, because at a certain level it was also genuine, but it's just got to consider all these different things, and that it's not to say that it's inauthentic from each of them, but the fact of the matter is the Sex Pistols started because Malcolm McLaren and Vivienne Westwood wanted to do their thing, mainly Malcolm McLaren, because Vivienne Westwood was just, her thing's fashion, which is great, and she, in my opinion, was a lot more grandstanding than Malcolm was, because, she lived longer. I think that should say a lot. I don't know. I think probably that has something to say. I don't know. 27 Club exists at the same time. I don't know. But, yeah. Just sort of influence in black metal and that sorts of things. And, fucking just is what it is, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out something else to say here.